All right, and one last topological concept is this idea of connected. And we talk about or a set being path connected, and so sometimes we hear the language of connected or path connected, and they're really the same thing. And it just means that 2 points within the set can be connected by a path which stays within the set. Okay, so for example, this first set in number 1, if we think about any 2 points within the set, we can draw any sort of path between them, and that path will be fully connected. So this one is, yes, that is path connected. If we can certainly draw a path between points in kind of the or within one part of the set here in 2, but what if we look at a point in this left circle and a point in the right circle? Oh, and there's our point. Okay, well, actually we can still draw a path between them, and we just have to use this line between them, and then that would be, so that's actually connected as well. And the third one, though, however, this is not going to be connected, right? Because we can create a path between those 2 lines, but we end up with a problem right there, so this is not path connected. Okay? And then just to expand on this idea of connected is this idea of simply connected. And this ends up being very important next week. But what a simply connected set is that if you think of any connected set, okay, so it first has to be connected. If we look at a closed path, and I want you to think of a loop for that path, we can shrink that closed path to a single point where that point occurs in our set. Okay, so if you think about a rubber band, and you have a rubber band that is the closed loop, and then the rubber band shrinks and shrinks and shrinks down to a single point, that point would have to lie in the set. Okay, so as an example, if we think of a path out here in this first example of R remove the origin, yeah, that can shrink to a point. Yep, it could shrink right to that point. But if I look at another path that is closed, like this blue one, well, that's going to shrink just to something that is not exactly a point, because it's shrinking around the origin, but we don't have the origin. So this one is not going to be connected. Okay, but if we do have the origin, we can really say, okay, well, let's take a weird wonky shape. As long as it's closed, I can compress that to a single point by shrinking it. Okay, so shrinking it and shrinking it, and then it would eventually go just to the point. Okay. In these last 2 examples, for the unit ball, or the unit sphere, this one, yep, I think you can take any. So if you look at like on the boundary here, and we're to take that loop and continually shrink it, it would. So you might have something like this inside, and then eventually it would go just to a point. Okay, so this one is simply connected. Okay, I should mention the other one was as well. For a torus, this one is not going to be simply connected, because if you look at, say, a path that were to go around the entire interior of the torus, like this, it would compress right to kind of that middle, but that does not compress any further to a point. So this one is not simply connected. Okay, so in this video we kind of talked about path connected and simply connected, and so we will and that's going to conclude the videos for this week. And next week we'll maybe see some of these ideas in action, and hopefully discuss that idea of, well, if the derivative matrix is symmetric, does that mean that we have something that is conservative? Okay. Otherwise, I'll see you all in class.